This was not supposed to be today's video. I already made a video where I talk briefly about World War II Chronicles, then I talk about how much of a disappointment the Comet or the Iron Duke 4 was. And then I promptly deleted the files because I'm an idiot and I was making space to reinstall Red Orchestra 2 for the umpteenth time. So you're getting this video, but rejoice because it's a KV-2 video, and who doesn't love a KV-2 video? I'm actually quite sad that I ended up deleting that video because I was looking forward for you guys seeing that video. Not just because I spent a lot of time on that video, but because it was a good video. I used both a lot of fancy editing techniques, and I think that I made a very coherent and very a very sound review of the Comet, explaining why it's such a mediocre tank and not the all-arounder MVP tank that I was expecting it to be. But fear not, we got the KV-2 1940 here. This is the KV-2 that you win if you played 14 days of the World War II Series Chronicle thingy events. And it's basically the modernized version of a KV-2 1939. The only difference between these two tanks are the way that the turret is shaped and the way that the armor protection works in the turret. So the KV-2 1940 doesn't retain the 90mm of gun mantlet armor, and the turret isn't sloped at 20 degrees backwards, which means that effectively you have a little bit less armor. But this thing is still at 4.3, and it's gonna see a lot of American M4 Shermans, which means that the armor, while it's not as good as the KV-2 1939, it's still very, very good, and the cannon is as awesome as ever. The last small difference between these two tanks is the KV-2 1940 gets only 4 degrees of gun depression compared to the 39 versions of 5 degrees of gun depression. That was a weird sentence, but you catch my drift. So basically, when you take both the armor differences and the one less degree of gun depression into account, these two tanks play exactly the same, they feel exactly the same, they fire the same ammo, and the armor profile is almost exactly the same, as well as the mobility or the lack thereof it. I mean, this is not a slow tank, but it's not the fastest tank in the world. It does turn very nicely in spot if you keep it in third gear, but you first gotta get it to third gear, which means you need to start moving. And this tank, since it doesn't have a very good power to weight ratio, doesn't start moving very quickly. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, I've always found the KV-2s very easy to play. It's nothing spectacular, what I'm about to say, but the KV-2 is probably the tank that I have the best kill to death ratio in. At some point in time, a couple of months back, while I was actively playing the KV-2, trying to get the footage for the German Stellinium series that I was doing, that I scrapped because I lost the footage twice because Gaijin updated the game and broke all the replays, I was rocking a 4-to-1 kill to death ratio. Now it's around 3-to-1, but it's still very respectable, and with the KV-2 1940, I also have close to 4-to-1 kill to death ratio. Now that's nothing very spectacular, but for me, and I am a average, slightly above average player, it's very, very good. But the main reason why I play the KV-2 so much is not because I'm quote-unquote good at it, it's because it's just so much fun. When you shoot at something with this 152mm cannon, it feels so satisfying. It has got to be the most satisfying feeling in this game when you blow up a tank that is, well, on paper it's supposed to be a much useful anti-tank weapon than your tank, when you blow them up in just one shot from across the map. And it's so satisfying because this gun has such a low velocity of the shells. It's so satisfying when you get those long-range shots in. It's just worth it playing this tank. It has almost a therapeutic effect on me. Whenever I'm really annoyed by this game, I just jump in the KV-2 and shoot some very lightly armored tank with these huge shells and feel completely relaxed. But one of the things that has always bothered me while I was playing the KV-2 is the possibility that this tank might just be slightly overpowered, and well, I just don't know. I just don't know if it's overpowered or not. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of really well in this tank, getting 5, 6, 7 kills in a match, but I do the same thing almost every match, and I don't know if it's overpowered. It's, on one hand, it's very simple to play because you only need to manage two things. Firstly, you need to not overextend. You need to always try to keep yourself surrounded by friendly tanks. You cannot engage more than one tank at a time, and you need to manage your reload, which means that you only come out and shoot at tanks when your tank is loaded. And basically that is it. If you can manage those two things, you will do very good in the KV-2. And from that side of the coin, it is kind of overpowered because, well, it's basically a tank that has very decent armor, mediocre mobility, Doesn't have a lot of gun depression, but it's got the best cannon at its battle rating, the cannon that is most definitely 99% of the time going to one-shot anything you shoot at. On the other hand, the KV-2 is not a very flexible tank. It's a one-hit pony. It's a one-trick pony, not a one-hit pony, which means that because the reload of this cannon is so extremely long, you cannot engage more than one tank at a time. If you, let's say, get ambushed by 2 tanks or you get bum rushed by 2 tanks, you can only kill one of them, and the other one is most likely going to kill you because he can fire 3 shots, maybe 4 shots, maybe even 5 shots into you before you manage to reload and shoot him back. And the other thing is, if you get disabled, if your cannon gets disabled, you're basically defenseless because you cannot run away, you cannot try to reload your cannon, and if your reload gets interrupted somewhere in the middle, you're going to have to do it all over again. And because this cannon has such a long reload, you just don't want to get shot at. But again, this tank has an amazing amount of armor. I don't know why, but tanks tend to bounce off this armor like crazy, while in theory and in practice, this armor isn't all that good. The 75mm on the hull can be angled and can be brought to around 113mm of all-around protection if you angle it correctly, but the turret is always going to be only 75 at the front. So if they shoot at your gun mantlet directly at your gun, you're most likely going to lose your cannon, and you can't shoot back if you lose your cannon. The last point I'm going to make in favor of the KV-2 not being overpowered is that this tank is very difficult to play on any other map than an urban environment. Which means that maps like Mozdok, Kursk and stuff like that, it's not the most optimal environment for this tank because of a few reasons. Firstly, you can't range your shots properly because you can only fire 1 shot almost every minute. Secondly is because, well, the shells have such a low velocity, you need to put a lot of lead towards the target and you need to elevate your gun correctly, so it's kind of hard to actually shoot at long ranges. You never want your enemies to be over 500 meters away from you when you try to shoot them because it's not easy to make those shots and you're not going to get those one-shot kills. This is truly a conundrum to me because I can't tell you for certain if the KV-2 is overpowered or if it's a tank that is supposed to stay where it currently is. At 4.3 battering, there is a lot of tanks that can easily penetrate the KV-2 at range, especially the Panzer IVs with their long 75mm cannons, but this also goes to the Churchills and the Cromwells and the M4s. All of those tanks can easily penetrate this tank, but the thing is, if the KV-2 manages to shoot before those tanks manages to shoot the KV-2, you just won. You killed them and they didn't kill you. So in one way it's a hard tank to play, and in the other way it's not all that hard to play this tank. Now you're seeing me shoot at this Cromwell here, and I just need to note this. This was the time where the high explosive shells didn't work properly in all of War Thunder, and I shot 2 high explosive 152mm shells into a Cromwell and he didn't die because, well, fuck me, I ran out of AP shells and I just needed to shoot the high explosive shells. Now, with the last patch in this game, they managed to fix the high explosive shells and they do perform again very well, but the high explosive penetration has been nerfed from 75mm for the 152mm cannon to only 52mm of penetration. But still, because they have such huge fragmentation, you just shoot at turrets of anything, you're going to penetrate the top armor of tanks very easily, and you can still very easily get kills with the high explosive shells of the KV-2. But enough of the theory crafting and balance talk. Shit, bullshit and chit chat. Shit, bullshit, that's a new swear word. Shit, bullshit. Let's watch the KV-2 in all its glory as I kick some Scrublord ass. So we're on the Frozen Pass map, which is the best map in the game. Yes, totally, no sarcasm right there, the best map in the game. Gaijin, in their infinite wisdom, decided to make a map where it's possible to spawn camp the enemy in less than 3 minutes into the match, as you will see in just a second, as I get flanked by an unlikely opponent, a Panzer III. I'm trying to time the shot. Hey, there it is, a Panzer III. He has managed to flank me while I'm trying to flank him. Now, will this little Panzer III with his measly 50mm cannon be able to defeat this behemoth? This is a figurative David versus Goliath fight. We will see what will happen. He took out quite a few of my crew members, but now I'm angled and, well, basically he is dead. Take aim. Boom, bitch. That's what you get for being a spawn camper. Well, not a spawn camper, but you'll see, this Panzer III is not alone. There is another, I think this is a Panzer IV behind him. Now, Panzer IVs are big problem in this tank, but the Panzer IV is a coward. He lacks the heart to attack the Soviet masterpiece that is the KV-2, because he probably didn't see me shoot at this Panzer III. And look at this, there's another Panzer III and another tank behind him. They're already going to try and spawn camp us, and I'm not going to let that fly, because KV-2 doesn't get spawn camped, KV-2 spawn camps itself. That's not a sentence. Skipping forward just a little bit, because it's not very interesting to watch a KV-2 hug a wall while it reloads its very big gun, because I already lost my gunner, so the reload takes a heck of a long time. But looky here, I see a tank on my left, and it looks like a Panzer III if I can get over this huge ass rock. Looks like a Panzer III. Now, one of the tips that I can give you for playing the KV-2 is when you see a tank and you have your gun loaded, spray them with MGs first, try to hit the track to see if the guy is actually alive, so you don't waste your shell, because, well, you can only carry, I think, 20 shells in this thing, and you don't want to carry more than 10 shells, because when are you going to kill 10 tanks? Because every shot you fire in this tank is supposed to be a kill. But anyhow, getting my third kill in this match, I'm gonna get a few kills very quickly here, and I'm not going to skip it, because just watching the KV-2 sit here while I reload and try to climb this hill with only 2 crew members remaining is very interesting gameplay and very interesting content, right? And now the KV-2 that has almost been spawn camped in the previous point of this match is going to do the same towards the enemy. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and with a 152mm cannon. Now, to the left here, I see one of those flak buses that is going to be engaging one of my friendly targets. Now, these guys, kind of hard to kill in this thing unless you fire high explosive ammo, and this was at that time, like I mentioned in the video, when the high explosive ammo was completely and utterly broken. And as you can see, I fire a shot, hit his tracks, set him on fire, and don't kill a single crew member. But yeah, because this thing has, this is the 1940 version of this tank, it has a hull machine gun, not a hull machine gun, I think it has a turret machine gun. You can actually shoot a machine gun and kill the lightly armored targets with just machine guns, netting me my 4th kill in this match. One more, and this is going to be an ace tanker match, tovarish. Oh, the stereotypes, I'm so sorry. But yeah, anyhow, I got my 4th kill. I'm moving over to the spawn. There's already a Cromwell here that is diligently watching the spawn for any enemies that are going to spawn, and he's getting shot at. So I put it in 4th, 5th, 7th gear, and I get my ass over here, and I see another lonely Panzer III that is not turned towards me. So again, I do the same thing. Aim at him, put some MG shots to see that he's alive, and fire my shell at him, and 5th kill! Ace tanker match in the KV-2, and it was that freaking easy. And this is basically the end of this match. I got one more kill, but it's not very interesting. I just killed the last crew member of a flak bus with my MGs. Yeah, not very interesting. So I'm going to end the video here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you didn't mind the unorganized, unprofessional nature of the last part of this video. My name has been Soulfax, and I will see you next time. Snap fingers. Cool guy. Outro done.